I am William Hayes, 45 years old, a senior financial auditor at the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, in Chicago. My job is to uncover secrets, distorted numbers, fabricated financial reports designed to hide the truth. I've spent nearly 2 decades tracking down financial fraud, from small startups to major corporations. But no case has troubled me more than the story of my sister, Lily Hayes, and the man she chose to marry, Charles Preston. Charles Preston is Lily's boss, the head of Preston Wealth Management, a rapidly rising investment firm in Chicago. He entered Lily's life 2 years ago when she joined the company as a marketing director. In just a few years, Charles turned Preston Wealth Management from a small firm into a powerhouse managing billions of dollars.
Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the latest video.
Lily is 15 years younger than me, so I've always felt like not just her brother, but her protector. I remember early mornings when I tied her hair before school, or times I chased off neighborhood kids who teased her about her oversized glasses. When Lily was 16, she sobbed over her first heartbreak. I sat with her on the couch, eating vanilla ice cream and watching silly romantic comedies until she smiled again. Those simple moments bonded us, making me Lily's anchor. Everything changed when our parents died in a car accident. I was 35, Lily just 20, still in college. I gave up a job opportunity at an SEC office in Washington, D.C., to stay in Chicago, near Lily. I didn't want her to feel alone during those tough years. My role became more than just a brother. I was the keeper of the family values our parents left behind. I wanted Lily to have a happy life, but also to be strong and independent. My career at the SEC is where I found balance. I started as a junior auditor, but my meticulousness and knack for spotting anomalies others missed led to quick promotions. My work involves digging into financial reports, searching for mismatched numbers, suspicious transactions. I once cracked a major fraud case at a Chicago real estate firm, where the CEO embezzled millions through offshore accounts. My reputation grew in the industry, but it also made me overly skeptical, sometimes excessively so. You see conspiracies everywhere, a colleague once teased. While I followed a path of numbers and regulations, Lily chose a different route. She studied marketing in college, with a vivid imagination and innate creativity. After graduating, she bounced between jobs, from small ad agencies to tech startups, but never found her footing. 2 years ago, she joined Preston Wealth Management, Charles Preston's investment firm. "Will, this is my biggest opportunity," she excitedly told me during a Sunday brunch at a familiar cafe in Logan Square. "Charles is a genius. He built the company from nothing, and now they manage billions. I've never worked with anyone like him." I smiled, nodded, but unease crept into my heart. I knew all too well the stories of meteoric success in finance. They often came with dark corners, shady deals, manipulated numbers. Charles Preston, with his polished confidence and perfect smile, felt like a painting too carefully crafted. I didn't say anything to Lily then, not wanting to dampen her joy. But my SEC experience taught me that when things look too perfect, something is usually wrong. Lily and Charles Preston's relationship moved so fast I could hardly keep up. Just 6 months after she joined Preston Wealth Management, she started mentioning Charles differently. At first it was innocent praise for his talent, how he wowed clients with presentations or complimented her marketing campaigns. But soon, her story shifted to late-night work sessions, business trips together, and then like a whirlwind, they started dating. I still remember a brunch at the usual Logan Square cafe, when Lily, eyes sparkling, declared, "Will, I think Charles is special. He's not like other bosses. Outside work, we're friends, more than friends." I tried to keep a neutral face, but unease stirred within me. I'd seen too many workplace romances in finance, relationships that often ended with blurred power lines or hidden secrets. "Are you sure, Lily?" I asked, stirring my coffee slowly. "Dating your boss can be complicated. I just want you to be careful." She laughed, waving off my concern. "You always worry too much, Will. Charles isn't the type to abuse his position. He respects me." I nodded, but her words didn't ease my bad feeling. Just 8 months later, Lily called, her voice bursting with joy. "Will, Charles proposed." She gushed about the romantic proposal at his family's resort in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, where he knelt by the lake, a diamond ring glinting in the sunset. "He's everything I've ever dreamed of," she said, thrilled. "Successful, thoughtful, ambitious." I wanted to share her happiness, truly, but every time I met Charles, an unease I couldn't explain grew. He had a way of talking only about himself, interrupting Lily constantly, sometimes belittling her opinions with joking superiority. Each time, my protective instincts flared. Their engagement party was held at a swanky restaurant in the Loop, overlooking the Chicago River's twinkling lights. It was my first real chance to observe Charles as a fiancé. He moved among guests, shaking hands, laughing loudly, recounting tales of million-dollar deals. But when I tried to engage him, he gave short, curt replies before turning to someone else. "He's just busy with guests, Will," Lily said, as if apologizing for him. But I saw the cold glint in Charles's eyes when he looked at me, as if I were an annoyance not worth his time. Lily's best friend Hannah Lee, the maid of honor, also noticed something off. During the engagement party, when Charles corrected Lily's story about how they met, Hannah whispered to me, "He always has to be the one in control. Did you see how he took over Lily's story?" I nodded, relieved I wasn't alone in noticing. Megan Cho, a lawyer and Lily's friend, texted me after the party. "Charles is a bit too boastful. It's like he's performing for the whole room." Their comments strengthened my suspicions, but I still lacked concrete evidence to share with Lily. The biggest surprise came when I ran into Ryan Parker at the engagement dinner. Ryan, an old college friend, had worked in financial compliance. I nearly dropped my wine glass when I saw him among the crowd, in a suit, shaking hands with Charles's colleagues. "Ryan, what are you doing here?" I asked, hiding my shock. "I work for Charles," he replied, his voice uneasy. "Investment analysis. Been here 6 months." I frowned. Ryan had never done investment analysis. He was a compliance expert, like I once was. Charles hiring him for a mismatched role raised red flags. After the party, I asked Lily about Ryan, but she was surprised. "I thought you knew," Charles said. "Ryan's one of his best analysts." I didn't press further, but in my mind, the pieces didn't fit. Why would Charles hire someone like Ryan, and why didn't Lily, who usually told me everything, know about this? I tried to push the thoughts aside, telling myself I might be too paranoid. But my SEC experience taught me that small details like these often lead to bigger secrets. I decided to try connecting with Charles again, hoping to understand him better. At a family gathering, I brought up Preston Wealth Management's rapid growth. "Lily says, your company's growth is impressive," I said, keeping my tone friendly. Charles sipped his wine, giving me a thin smile. "Sure is, but it's complicated. Not everyone gets it." His response felt like a subtle slap, and I knew the wall between us wouldn't come down easily. Little did I know, weeks later, an SEC email would confirm my worst fears, forcing me to choose between protecting Lily and exposing the truth. My suspicions about Charles Preston weren't just personal. In finance, firms like Preston Wealth Management, with rocket-like growth, often attract scrutiny. Nearly 2 decades at the SEC taught me that when a company manages billions in just a few years, something's usually off. A hidden account, a falsified report, or worse, a sophisticated fraud scheme. Things became clearer a few months before the wedding when I got an urgent email from Daniel Walsh, a close SEC colleague. We were in our downtown Chicago office, lights from Millennium Park glowing through the window when my phone buzzed. "Will, you need to see this now," the subject line read. The email contained a brief report. The SEC's algorithms flagged irregularities in Preston Wealth Management's third-quarter financials, unusual cash flows, inconsistent profit reporting, and overseas transfers not matching their declared international operations. "This is your sister's fiancé's firm, right?" Daniel wrote. My stomach churned. I called Daniel immediately, keeping my voice steady. "What kind of irregularities?" I asked, staring out at the bustling Michigan Avenue below. "Nothing concrete yet," he replied. "But the system flagged transfers to Cayman accounts, disproportionate to their international operations. Plus, reported profits spiked without supporting data. Want in on the investigation?" I took a deep breath. "I can't. Conflict of interest." Daniel sighed over the phone. "I know, but if this is real, Will, your sister could be implicated." Daniel's words haunted me all night. If Preston Wealth Management was involved in financial fraud, Lily wasn't just marrying a con man. She could face legal trouble, especially as marketing director. She'd promoted the firm, drawing investors with her creative campaigns. If those investors lost money, they'd blame her, even if she was innocent. I lay on my couch in my apartment near Grant Park, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with what to do next. Telling Lily now could shatter her happiness, but staying silent could plunge her into a bigger nightmare. I decided to reach out to Ryan Parker, my old college friend now working for Charles. We met at a small bar in the West Loop, where dim lights and soft jazz created a discreet atmosphere. Ryan looked tense, glancing around as if afraid of being watched. "You know why Charles hired me?" he said, voice low. "Because I used to work in compliance. He thought I could help optimize financial reports without breaking the law. But Will, what I've seen isn't just optimization. There are transactions. They're way beyond the gray area." Ryan spoke of falsified performance reports and funds transferred overseas without proper documentation. "I'm not sure how much Charles thinks I'm loyal to him," he added, "but I can't keep pretending." Ryan's words confirmed my fears, but I still needed concrete evidence. I thanked him and promised to keep it confidential. but in my mind, I knew I was stepping into dangerous territory. If I reported Charles to the SEC, Lily would think I was trying to sabotage her wedding. If I did nothing, I'd betray my professional ethics, and worse, let Lily fall into danger. A few weeks before the wedding, I tried talking to Lily again. We met at a bridal shop in the Magnificent Mile, where Lily was trying on her stunning wedding gown, adorned with silk and handcrafted pearls. She looked like a princess, but when I looked into her eyes, I saw a hint of worry. "Lily, are you sure about Charles?" I asked, choosing my words carefully. "I don't want to upset you, but something about him doesn't feel right." Lily's face hardened. "Will, just because you investigate fraud all day doesn't mean everyone's hiding something. You haven't even given Charles a chance. He makes me happy. Isn't that enough?" Her voice trembled with hurt, and I instantly regretted my words. Perhaps I was letting my professional skepticism override family feelings. I apologized, promised to support her, and decided to shelve my suspicions for now. But deep down, I couldn't stop thinking about Daniel's email and Ryan's words. I told myself I'd keep watching, but quietly, to avoid hurting Lily before her big day. The professional pressure was mounting too. At the SEC, my boss, Mr. Harris, called me into his office. "Will, I know your sister is tied to Preston Wealth Management," he said sternly. "If we launch an investigation, you have to stay out of it. A conflict of interest could discredit the whole team." I nodded, but my heart sank. How could I stay out when the person I loved most might be caught in a financial scandal? Yet, as an auditor, I knew I had a duty to protect investors, people who might be deceived by Charles. Charles's behavior didn't stop there. Throughout the pre-wedding events, from the engagement party to family gatherings, he always found ways to sideline me. At a family dinner at a restaurant by Lake Michigan, Charles called my job Wall Street oversight, making his business friends burst into laughter. Lily seemed oblivious to these subtle insults, or she chose to ignore them. When I brought it up after dinner, she sighed. "Charles is just stressed with work, Will. The company's expanding big, and he has a lot on his plate." I wanted to believe her, but Charles's contemptuous looks weren't the mark of someone stressed. It felt like he was deliberately pushing me out of Lily's world. The rehearsal dinner before the wedding was the final straw. The event was held at an exclusive lakeside restaurant, with views of the water sparkling under city lights. I was seated at the far end of the family table, far from Lily and Charles, as if I were an unimportant guest. When I stood to give a speech as Lily's only brother, I noticed Charles checking his watch 3 times during my brief remarks. That gesture infuriated me, but I kept my voice steady, speaking of my love for Lily and my wish for her happiness. When I sat down, Charles didn't even glance at me, turning to whisper with Gregory Holt, his business partner, as if I didn't exist. That night, I overheard a conversation that made my heart race. After excusing myself to make a call in the hallway, I paused near the bar and heard Charles's voice, low and sharp, speaking to Gregory. "Lily's brother is becoming a problem. He keeps asking about the company," Gregory replied, his voice anxious. "Does he suspect anything?" Charles gave a cold laugh. "Just a petty government auditor, but he's too nosy. After the wedding, I'll make sure Lily sees less of him." I stood frozen, pressed against the wall, my heart pounding. Charles's words not only confirmed his hostility, but also triggered professional alarm bells. Why was he so worried about my questions, unless he had something to hide? I returned to the party, trying to keep a calm face, but my mind was reeling. Charles's conversation with Gregory wasn't just a personal slight, it was a sign of a bigger secret. I recalled Daniel Walsh's email about irregularities in Preston Wealth Management's financial reports, and Ryan Parker's words about shady transactions. The pieces were starting to connect, but I still lacked solid evidence to act. I told myself to be patient, that I needed more information before doing anything that could hurt Lily. Lily and Charles Preston's wedding took place at the Fairmont Chicago, a lavish venue with opulent ballrooms, crystal chandeliers casting a shimmering glow, and white orchids draped everywhere. A string quartet played soft melodies, and morning sunlight filtered through windows, illuminating silk-draped tables. It was supposed to be my sister's happiest day, but to me it felt like a stage set to conceal a dark truth. All day I felt like an outsider, deliberately excluded by Charles from every key moment, each of his glances a reminder that I wasn't welcome. The morning began in the bridal suite, where Lily stood before a mirror, radiant in her white silk gown adorned with intricate pearl details. She looked like she stepped out of a fairy tale, her happy smile almost making me forget the suspicions gnawing at my mind. "How do I look, Will?" she asked, twirling gently. "Stunning," I replied, choking back emotion. "Charles will faint when he sees you." She laughed, but her eyes flickered with a hint of worry. "You think he'll like it?" I took her hand, reassuring her. "He won't be able to take his eyes off you." But inwardly I wondered if Charles truly deserved her. The cheerful mood faded when Victoria Preston, Charles's mother, entered the room. Tall and elegant, with silver hair meticulously styled in a designer gown, she exuded sophistication. "Lily, you look quite nice," she said, eyeing my sister head to toe with a critical gaze. "Though I still think a Vera Wang design would have been better for the photos." Then she turned to me, her smile thinning. "William, that suit looks unique on you." I bit my lip, staying silent for Lily's sake. "Thank you for choosing such a beautiful venue," I said, keeping my tone polite. Victoria raised an eyebrow. "Well, Charles wanted a small wedding, but Prestons don't do anything small." As family photos began, I realized Charles was intentionally marginalizing me. He subtly arranged for me to stand at the edge of every shot, sometimes whispering to the photographer or placing me behind taller guests. "Will, why don't you stand behind Uncle Robert?" I requested, my voice smooth but deliberate. I asked for a photo with just me and Lily, but Charles glanced at my watch. "We're running late. Maybe at the reception." That photo never happened. The ceremony at a nearby church was flawless, with high vaulted ceilings, fresh flowers cascading everywhere, and hundreds of glowing candles. Watching Lily walk down the aisle, arm in arm with our uncle, I felt a mix of pride and anxiety. As they exchanged vows, I tried to convince myself I was overthinking, that Charles might just be arrogant, not a fraud. I searched for my name card at the family table, but after a moment of confusion, an event staff member apologized and led me to a table near the kitchen door. Clearly not a spot for the bride's only brother. "Must be a mix-up," she said, but when I saw Charles at the head of the room, flashing a smug smile, I knew it was intentional. I swallowed my anger, heading to the bar for a drink when a familiar voice spoke behind me. "They really did you dirty with that table." I turned to see Ryan Parker, my old college friend, in a groomsman's suit, looking uneasy. "Ryan, you okay?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. He lowered his voice. "Will, I need to talk to you about Charles's company." "Not here. Meet me on the rooftop in 20 minutes. Ryan's words made me forget my frustration about the seating. I nodded, and 20 minutes later I quietly slipped up to the rooftop, where city lights stretched out below. Ryan stood in a shadowed corner, avoiding other guests' gazes. "What I've seen is systematic fraud, faked performance reports, came in accounts to hide money, and international transfers with no basis." I glanced at his phone screen, the dim light revealing glaring discrepancies. "This is securities fraud," I whispered, my professional instincts kicking in, and possibly money laundering. "Why tell me now at the wedding?" I asked, my voice tense. Ryan looked at me, eyes serious. "Because Charles and Lily are leaving for a 2-week honeymoon the day after tomorrow. He said he'd clean up while they're gone. I think he plans to destroy evidence." Before I could respond, I noticed a few guests glancing our way, including some of Charles's business associates, their eyes suspicious. "I have to get back inside," I said quickly. "Send me these files through a secure channel. I'll get them to the right people at the SEC." Ryan nodded, but as I turned to leave, I saw Charles at the far end of the rooftop, eyes narrowed, staring at me and Ryan with a cold expression. He whispered something to Gregory Holt, and Gregory started walking toward us. I hurried back to the reception hall. Ryan's documents were the proof I needed, but they also put me in an inescapable dilemma. If I reported Charles, Lily would be hurt, possibly implicated due to her role at the firm. If I stayed silent, I'd let innocent investors and Lily fall into the hands of a fraudster. I stood among the crowd of guests, watching Lily beam beside Charles, wondering if I should ruin her wedding day to save her from a worse future. Just then my phone buzzed. A message from Daniel Walsh. "Emergency meeting tomorrow morning. Preston Wealth Management investigation officially greenlit. You in?" I felt the floor drop beneath me. Ryan must have sent evidence directly to the SEC, and the investigation was moving faster than I expected. I looked at Charles, laughing with guests, and knew the moment of confrontation was near. All evening, I was torn by what Ryan Parker revealed on the rooftop. The documents he sent, faked reports, offshore Cayman accounts, illegal transfers, were undeniable proof that Preston Wealth Management was running a financial fraud scheme. The urgent message from Daniel Walsh at the SEC, confirming the official investigation would start tomorrow morning, made it impossible for me to stay idle. As dinner ended, the DJ announced it was time for speeches. Charles stood, lightly tapping his champagne glass with a silver spoon, drawing every eye in the ballroom. He looked like the perfect image of success, tailored suit, confident smile, and a smooth voice like a seasoned actor. But when his gaze swept over me, I saw a glint of triumph, as if he knew he'd pushed me out of Lily's world. In that moment, a cold clarity rose within me. This wasn't just personal between me and Charles. It was about Lily's future, innocent investors, and the truth I'd sworn to uphold at the SEC. Charles began his speech, his voice brimming with charm. "Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, today is a magical day." Seeing Lily walk down the aisle, I knew I was the luckiest man alive. Guests smiled, cameras flashed, and Lily gazed at him with adoring eyes. He went on, thanking his mother, Victoria Preston, for raising him with ambition and vision. He thanked Gregory Holt, his close friend and business partner, for achieving the impossible together. He even mentioned Lily's uncle, who walked her down the aisle, and her best friend Hannah Lee, for being my wife's wonderful friend. But my name, William Hayes, Lily's only brother, was left out. A few guests glanced at me, their eyes uneasy. Lily's smile faltered briefly, but she stayed silent. Charles continued, his tone shifting to sarcasm. And I must say Lily was lucky to join Preston Wealth Management, where talent is recognized, regardless of background or connections. He glanced at me, his smile fading. Some people spend their lives checking paperwork, enforcing petty rules, never understanding what it's like to build something of real value. A few guests let out awkward laughs. Those who knew I worked at the SEC understood he was targeting me. I sat still, my face burning but maintaining a calm exterior. Charles raised his glass higher, his voice dripping with smugness. Today we're not just celebrating love, but ambition realized. Preston Wealth Management will expand into 3 new international markets next quarter, with numbers that will stun our competitors. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a message from Daniel. Evidence suggests Charles plans to destroy documents. SEC seeking urgent warrant. My heart pounded. Charles was boasting about an empire built on lies, and I couldn't stay silent any longer. I stood, my chair scraping the floor with a shrill sound in the quiet room. All eyes turned to me. I think everyone should know, I said, my voice calm but sharp, ringing clear across the ballroom, that Preston Wealth Management will be investigated for securities fraud and money laundering starting at 9 a.m. tomorrow. And I have the evidence right here. Charles's champagne glass froze midair. His face, flushed from wine and triumph moments ago, turned ashen. The ballroom fell into a deathly silence. 200 guests looked back and forth between me and Charles, as if time had stopped. Lily covered her mouth, eyes wide with shock. What are you saying, Will? She whispered, her voice trembling. Charles regained some composure, but his voice shook. You're lying. This is a filthy trick to ruin our wedding because you're jealous. I looked straight at him, unflinching. The SEC doesn't investigate based on jealousy, Charles. They investigate based on evidence, like falsified performance reports, offshore Cayman accounts, and client funds illegally transferred. Gregory Holt slumped into his chair, looking like he might faint. Some of Charles's business associates began whispering, phones appearing in their hands. Will, what are you talking about? Lily asked, her voice small but filled with pain. I stepped closer to her, pulling out my phone and opening the files Ryan sent. Lily, you need to see this. Charles tried to interrupt. Don't listen to him. This is manipulation. But Lily stepped back, raising a hand to stop him. She took my phone, scrolling through the documents with trembling hands. Though not versed in finance, she recognized the anomalies. The emails from Charles instructing Gregory to create the story clients want to see. This is your signature, Charles, she whispered, looking up at him. This is your signature on the transfer orders. Charles stammered. You're misunderstanding. Business is complicated, Lily. These things are taken out of context. I cut him off. Then why did you tell Gregory to handle the situation tonight? Because everything's transparent? Charles spun around, face red. You dared to eavesdrop on me at my own wedding. I replied, my voice cold. I didn't eavesdrop. I overheard. There's a difference. The ballroom erupted in murmurs. Victoria Preston stood abruptly, trying to salvage the situation. This is just a family misunderstanding, she declared, her voice shaky. Everyone please continue enjoying the party. But it was too late. The ballroom doors swung open, and 3 men in suits entered. I recognized Daniel Walsh instantly, alongside 2 colleagues from the SEC's Enforcement Division. Mr. Charles Preston, Daniel said, his voice calm but firm. We need to ask you some questions about Preston Wealth Management. He held up a warrant, his gaze stern. Charles backed away, his face twisted with anger and panic. You have no right to be here. This is my wedding. Daniel raised the warrant. We have a warrant, and reason to believe evidence related to the investigation may be destroyed tonight. Charles looked around, as if searching for an escape. Then his eyes landed on Lily. Lily, you know me. I haven't done anything wrong. But Lily, tears streaming down her face, just shook her head. These documents have your signature, Charles. I promoted your company, brought in clients, because I trusted you. As Daniel and his colleagues led Charles out through a side exit, the guests stood frozen, stunned. The string quartet, which had stopped during the chaos, started a soft melody, but it felt out of place in the shattered atmosphere. Lily, her wedding gown shimmering under the lights, looked at me with pained eyes. Will, why didn't you tell me sooner? She whispered, then turned and ran toward the bridal suite. I followed, my heart heavy, knowing this moment had changed everything, not just between me and Lily, but her entire life. The days after the wedding were the hardest. Lily was furious, refusing to speak to me for 2 weeks, moving into a hotel and leaving unopened wedding gifts behind. "I feel betrayed, Will," she said when she finally agreed to meet. "I trusted him, promoted his company, and now everyone sees me as an accomplice." I explained. I only wanted to protect her, but she wasn't ready to listen then. Gradually, through honest conversations, she saw the truth. Charles had exploited her trust to build his fraudulent empire. Lily cooperated with the SEC, providing details about the marketing campaigns she unknowingly used to attract investors. Her sincerity proved she was a victim, not a conspirator. Now she's starting anew with Hayes Integrity Consulting, a firm focused on business ethics. "I want to help companies do the right thing," she said, her eyes lighting up. "And I've got 3 potential clients, people who invested in Charles's firm but don't blame me." I smiled. "Dad would be proud, Lily. Not everyone can rise after what you've been through." 3 months after that fateful wedding, I sat across from Lily in a cozy cafe in Chicago's Andersonville neighborhood. Soft sunlight streamed through the windows, warming the wooden tables and the rich scent of coffee. Lily looked different, no longer the radiant bride in a white silk gown, but a stronger woman, though still carrying traces of those tough days. That wedding, dubbed the whistleblower explosion by Financial News, had upended her life. But today, looking into Lily's eyes, I saw a new spark, the resilience I always knew she had. Lily sipped her latte, her voice calm. "Yesterday I officially ended the engagement. I was Mrs. Preston for exactly 12 weeks, but not a single day was happy." I took her hand across the table, feeling the relief in her words. "You okay?" I asked. "Mostly relieved," she replied. "The lawyers proved I knew nothing about Charles's fraud, so I'm not being prosecuted. Charles Preston now awaits trial for a litany of charges: securities fraud, money laundering, obstruction of justice. Preston Wealth Management is under court oversight, with accountants tracing millions in embezzled funds. Our relationship has changed, but for the better. From a protective brother, I've become a companion, and Lily is no longer the little girl I shielded. We're stronger, more honest." I faced an internal SEC review for conflict of interest, but my honesty cleared me. Sitting in the cafe, I felt a sense of peace. The truth, though painful, set us free. The story of William Hayes and his sister Lily in modern Chicago reflects real issues in today's U.S. society, especially the intersection of trust, professional ethics, and family duty. William, an SEC auditor, grappled with protecting Lily from Charles Preston, a financial fraudster, while avoiding hurting her on her wedding day. The climax at the Fairmont Chicago, where William exposed Charles's fraud, underscored the power of truth, however painful. William and Lily's healing journey after the scandal, with Lily founding Hayes Integrity Consulting, shows resilience and redirection after crisis. These details mirror realities in the U.S., where fraud cases like Enron or Bernie Madoff still teach transparency lessons. And American culture values individuals standing up for justice, even at personal risk, a lesson for real life. In today's U.S. society, where trust is easily exploited by ambition and profit, this story teaches the importance of honesty and courage in facing the truth, even if it hurts. Like William, you might face tough choices between protecting loved ones and doing what's right, like reporting workplace misconduct. William's actions, backed by Ryan's evidence in the SEC, remind us that truth requires verified facts, not just gut feelings. Lily's rebirth with her ethics-focused consulting firm highlights that failure, like Charles's scandal, is a chance to rebuild with higher purpose. In life, listen to your instincts like William, verify suspicions with facts, and trust that honesty will lead you and those you love to a brighter future, even if the journey is challenging. If my and Lily's story of courage and truth touched you, hit the subscribe button to follow more meaningful stories. Thank you for joining us, and see you in the next video, where we'll keep exploring life's lessons.